You know what's funny is that Israel's objectives since October 7th have never changed. Return every hostage and dismantle Hamas so that Gaza is no longer a launching ground for mass murder. And I have a very difficult time of understanding how any pro-Palestinian would frame that as aggression, because to me, that is the basic duty of a state to its people. And I think that any country that would not pursue this mission would be betraying its most sacred obligation, which should be the protection of its people and citizens. So why exactly are Israel's objectives key to ending this war? Well, because this war isn't going to end on Hamas's terms. It never was going to, and Hamas knew that it would not end on their terms, but they were going to make the most out of what they could possibly get back for exchanging hostages whom they took, which is a war crime for Palestinian prisoners. And obviously, we've seen over the past week, Hamas has released a handful of hostages, 4 in one transfer and multiple others in the days that followed. But I want you guys to understand that these are human remains that have been held underground, that have been used as bargaining chips. And Hamas was even claiming at one point that they had no more, despite a lot of intelligence shared with mediators that proved that dozens of more bodies remained in Gaza. Hamas was and still is withholding the dead, not even allowing dignity of Israelis in death. And then you have hostages who did survive, many of them barely, having emerged from underground subterranean tunnels in captivity after 740-ish days, who were starved to skeletal weight, who were deprived of light, shackled, beaten, interrogated. All of this stuff ongoing for 2 years. These were not soldiers that Hamas captured in battle. These were civilians, including Americans, who were abducted from their homes and from a peaceful concert, a time of peace and celebration. And Hamas tortured civilians as a strategy of war. And then at the last minute, right before transferring them, Hamas tried to stage video calls with their families to frame itself as merciful. If Hamas had the ability to call a hostage's family that day whenever they were going to be transferred, they had that same ability every single day for 2 years. And this is why this war simply can't stop at a ceasefire, because a ceasefire that leaves Hamas intact guarantees more hostages, more tunnels, more slaughter, more death of Israelis. The only moral end to this war is the one Israel has stated again from day one: bring every last hostage home and dismantle the terrorist regime holding Gaza hostage. We expect in the coming days for all of the deceased remains and bodies of Israeli hostages to be returned back to Israel and to their families. However, we aren't so sure whether Hamas is going to relinquish power, lay down their weapons, and oust themselves from governing and power within the Gaza Strip. But what's very clear is that Israel at this current stage is not expanding this war. Hamas is continuing to prolong it, as they have done for 2 years straight. And every government, activist, or NGO calling for Israel's restraint while ignoring these hostages is not supporting the peace process. They are supporting Hamas's strategy of human bargaining, prolonging the conflict, and delaying. They're stalling.